Welcome back to Today in Atlanta Sports. It is February 22nd, and we haven't had a lot to talk about, which is why we haven't had an episode in about a week. But we do have a huge bomb that was dropped on us today. And really, it's kind of been a conversation for a while now. But now the belief, according to Buster Olney in an article that he wrote this morning for ESPN, is that Freddie Freeman will resign elsewhere. So up until this point, it's always been, 95% chance that he was going to sign with the Braves, 90, 85, 60, 70. But it's always been, high, hey, most people believe he's going to sign with the Braves. Now we get a big MLB insider who's been doing this for a long time saying that there are people within the organization or within the industry, most people within the industry now believe that he will sign elsewhere and that he will sign quickly with another team. And if you go back to even 4 days ago, Chipper Jones was asked on Dukes and Bell, 92.9 the game, kind of about the situation. And he said, hey, there's been a lot of offers that, haven't made Freeman smile. Now he's being courted by the prettiest girls in the rooms. We're talking Red Sox, we're talking Dodgers, we're talking Yankees, guys with deep pockets, with, a history of winning. He's considering it. The one thing that did kind of make you feel better about what Chipper Jones said is that if he wants to be a Brave, he will be a Brave. It does kind of seem like this is coming to between a fifth and a sixth year. The Braves don't offer that sixth year. He really wants that sixth year. But listen, it's looking ugly, and it looks like both sides want this over with. I do think the lockout's going to come to an end. That can be something we talk about briefly later. I think that's going to come to an end soon. And within a matter of weeks, Freddie Freeman could very well be on another team.
Yeah, it's really disappointing to see it come to this. We were all sitting here last year talking about this exact situation and how it should be, it needs to be avoided, especially before the lockout. And it hasn't come to that. Like you said, it seems like it's that fifth year, sixth year, and looking towards the future of having to re-sign Austin Riley, Ozzie, and all these other guys, Max Fried. That seems to be the sticking point where Anthopoulos seems to, he doesn't want to budge because he knows that it's going to become time to pay all these other guys when Freddie's contract is nearing the end. And, I guess it's kind of scary to, 38-year-old getting paid all this money when you got these guys in their primes that really deserve it. So I understand the business side of it, but as a Braves fan, it's just disappointing.
Yeah, I understand the business side to it to a degree. I don't understand it as much as like what's being reported. Like if it's really about a fifth or a sixth year, I know we talked about, Austin Riley and Ozzie Albies and Acuna, getting paid around that time, but a fifth and a sixth year doesn't do it to me. Now, if we're talking like a 7-year deal or something like that, or maybe the AAV on this contract is way bigger than what's being reported, but I have a hard time believing that the Braves aren't willing to give him 6 for 180, which would make him the highest paid first baseman in baseball by a considerable amount. And I think he'll be able to live out that contract just fine, especially with the DH coming to the National League. Not that Freddie Freeman isn't a fantastic fielder. So if it's just a fifth and a sixth year and we're talking 25 extra million bucks, I have a hard time believing that is really what it's come down to. And I don't know if I can convince myself that was a good move on the Braves end. I don't know. Maybe in 5 years I'll say something different, and we all will. But to me, that just seems a little ridiculous considering we know payroll's going up. We just won a World Series. The future outlook for this team is so bright. But if you take Freddie Freeman out of it, it's not it. You don't know. I just don't even know how this team would react. I don't even know. I know they're going to go and swing for the fences somewhere else if they don't re-sign Freeman, whether that's Carlos Correa, whether that's Matt Olson. They're going to swing for the fences, or Anthony Rizzo. They're going to get someone big. It's not like they're just going to leave a big void in this lineup or not spend money. I just don't know if the effect that Freddie Freeman has on that locker room, that clubhouse, that he's the heart and soul of this team. They look at him as a leader. I have a hard time believing that things will be exactly the same no matter who they go get if it's not Freddie Freeman. So that's my biggest issue with the whole thing is I know Matt Olson statistically could give you the same as Freddie Freeman, maybe even a little better, Carlos Correa, whatever. I just think there's something about having a guy like a Freddie Freeman, a Chipper Jones, a real leader in that locker room that's been there forever that you're going to be missing if you let Freddie Freeman walk.
Yeah, he's definitely the glue guy. That's can't argue that. And you bring up great points the past few years about how baseball is a long season, and you need cohesion in the locker room if you really want to succeed. And you always point out basically, all these projection sites never have the Braves taking home the NL East. Just because, the Mets spend all this money, the Phillies spend all this money. And basically, like you say, it's basically not accounting for the actual chemistry inside the locker room. And Freddie Freeman, however valuable he is on the field, he's equally, if not more valuable off the field, and keeping these guys in line. Setting the precedent that we're going to play every single game, no matter what. I mean, you just posted an article about Austin Riley starting 160 games this past season.
And
that's unheard of.
Well, that's the whole infield too.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember they had that article from last year when the Braves were struggling, talking about, maybe this is why the Braves aren't doing well in the postseason, because they play all these games and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's the most ridiculous shit I have ever heard. And they tried to portray Freddie Freeman as this bully instead of the leader that he is. And it's just funny because we go on to win, 40 of our next 55 games, win the division by 8 games, and then win the World Series. So yeah, I don't think we were too tired to get wins in the postseason. It's just about, hey, dude, the playoffs is hard. It's normal to struggle in the playoffs and not win in the playoffs. It's not that we got too tired at the end of the season. There's just better teams in the playoffs. Pitching's better. So I just thought that was such a stupid article when it was written, and I said that it was such a stupid article, and it was written by someone who doesn't know a damn thing about baseball, clearly has never played baseball in their lives, and it was just hilarious to watch us win the World Series, not even like 2 or 3 months after we win that. But that's just, I want to read exactly what Olney said in the report. This is word for word. The presumption among a lot of rival executives last year was that Freeman and the Braves would eventually work out a deal. But Freeman was not among the stars who signed a pre-lockout contract, even after the Braves won the World Series and the franchise operated with the championship glow and cash injection. So the industry view has shifted. There's a growing belief that Freeman will land somewhere else outside of Atlanta because of the standoff in these negotiations. The Braves offered $135 million over 5 years. I read it 5 years, $150 million. Regardless, doesn't matter. Same kind of thing. And Freeman is looking for a 6-year deal. An official said, I think the Braves will move quickly to settle on an alternative and move on to get past this conversation once the lockout ends. That's his, your Matt Olson, your Anthony Rizzo. That's really the only 2 guys I can kind of see. I mean, maybe you go get Schwarber, but he was really bad defensively at first base. So I think you're looking at an Olson deal trade. He then goes on his next point. It's an 8-point article about 8 things that will happen quickly after the lockout. His point number 2 is the Oakland Athletics, who Matt Olson plays for, will execute a major subtraction, basically saying, maybe it's Chapman, Olson. They've got a bunch of guys they could trade, but it kind of goes hand in hand. He's basically saying, hey, Olson's about to be traded and Freeman's going elsewhere. So it does kind of make sense. We've been linked to him. I still think that's kind of a crazy move because you look at all these farm system rankings, we're plummeting. And if you go give away 3 of our top 10 prospects to go get Matt Olson or more, it's going to be even worse. So it definitely makes the most sense to re-sign Freeman. Maybe they have this blockbuster thing for Carlos Correa. I mean, we've been linked to him, but everything gets a lot weirder if you don't re-sign Freddie Freeman. But once this lockout ends, it looks like we'll know super, super quickly.
Yeah, it's going to be an avalanche, that's for sure. It makes you just think, all this talk about it makes me think about how, it doesn't even matter about, the collusion. This isn't just in the MLB. This isn't all sports. It's hilarious to me that, fans or even officials don't think, stuff's going on behind the scenes. And though it may be slight and very backdoorish, they're talking about it and they're planning. And they have exactly what is going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, they've got A, B, and C backup plans. So I find that fascinating that they're just, strategizing. And it's going to be like an all-out war once the lockout ends. I'm excited.
Yeah, I definitely think there's talks going on behind closed doors. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, whether it's between actual players, agents, different organizations. Just like there's definitely like people pretty much know already behind closed doors what's going to happen throughout the whole landscape of the MLB. I don't think it's just not Freddie Freeman. It's all these guys, all these players pretty much have a good idea of where they're going to sign. And that's why when it's going to be crazy, because it's going to be like lockout ends and you're going to have free agent signing after free agent signing. And it's like, oh, how did this happen so quickly? Like there was supposed to be no negotiations. So yeah, it is funny. One thing I wanted to do, because I mean, we really have beaten this topic like a dead horse. There's not too much other to say other than the fact that we're in a little bit of shock that, hey, it might not even be 50-50 anymore. It could be 30-70 that we re-sign him 30%, we re-sign him 70%, he goes elsewhere. I'm still not totally sold that he's going somewhere, just because a few guys around the league have a feeling that he might be going somewhere else. I'm not totally sold on that fact yet, but I guess we'll know. But I do want to check in on Twitter, because I know that's always the most logical place to go when things like this happen, and just read some of the reactions to the Braves fans about this news. So I'll share this. I'll put this up on the screen. All right. So let's see. And then 19 seconds ago, we got shut up. Liberty Media needs to sell the team if this happens. I would love them to sell the team. I don't see that happening because they're literally just making money hand over fist. And they did just win a World Series. Chipper Jones. We're talking about the Chipper Jones thing here. If Freddie leaves because he wanted to leave, I'm sure money is on the table from the Braves. The only thing I could say that Freddie might want to leave about is because there's just a strained relationship throughout this whole negotiation process. I mean, you saw how Julio Jones went from Falcons to life, Uncle Arthur to like, I don't really like it here. I don't like this organization. And that happens just like that. That's what negotiations can do sometimes. It makes you feel not wanted. That's the only reason I could see Freddie actually wanting to leave. I definitely don't think he got offered the same amount of money by the Braves as he did from every other team. I think that's stupid because he'd be back. I'll just take my riot back if that happens. Let's see what we got. I know we got some good ones. What is this? Why is this over here? Phillies, please. Oh my God. You want to talk about something that make me throw up? The Phillies signing. Oh, I mean, there's no way that'll happen. I am worried about the Dodgers, though. If he goes to New York, I obviously would hate to watch Freddie Freeman in pinstripes, but at least I could live, survive. We don't have to see him ever play. If he goes to Los Angeles and we have to see him in the playoffs and he just kicks our ass, that would be interesting. That'd be an interesting homecoming, because I think everyone's going to love Freddie Freeman no matter what. But if he goes to Los Angeles and he's in there like it's a playoff game, that's a much different reception than it's going to be in just a regular season game, even if he goes to Los Angeles. I mean, I think the Boo Birds will be out in droves if that happens.
Yeah, it's similar to the KD fiasco. Obviously, KD lost to the Warriors and then went and joined them, but it's something similar where it would be, going to your most hated rival that you see in the playoffs year after year, and then you just join them.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of this meme right here, Atlanta Braves hat killing themselves. A lot of the Kermit the Frog jumping off the building.
You see that crazy when that money goes to Soto? I could get behind that fully. I mean,
I did see that. Oh yeah, I mean, Juan Soto is way better than Freddie. I do love a lot of these responses, because this is such an emotional response and everything, where it's like, I love my team, but it would be hard to be a fan of the Braves if they let Freeman walk. And it's like, you say that, and yes, the day that happens, you're going to be sick. You'll probably be sick for 2 weeks. But when baseball starts being played and they put on that tomahawk with those sexy white uniforms at Truist Park, and you get a ice cold beer in your hand, you're going to be cheering for the Braves, and you're going to get over it a lot quicker than you think you will. And let's also be honest. Like I said this a million times, but I just want to reiterate, the Braves are going to spend money. We are going to have a higher payroll than we did last year. So if we let Freddie Freeman walk, that's $30 extra million we can go spend elsewhere. It really just comes down to they don't think he's as valuable, for 150 million years over 5 years, or 180 million over 6 years, or whatever it is. But they will spend money, so it's not like they're going to just like hold all the money hostage that they made from the World Series. I do have to say that. But yeah, this just gives you an idea. I love this one. Put a bullet in my head, but with Adam Sandler. Yeah, but it's interesting. But yeah, I just wanted to share some of that because I think a lot of these Twitters, when these things go out, just crack me the hell up.
Yeah, it does not matter. Once opening day comes and Freddie's on the team or not on the team, it won't matter. It'll be about, celebrating the World Series, looking forward to the next year. It'll obviously be emotional, but just like you said, once the games start rolling around and you're at Truist Park, it's a sunny day, you got a big old beer, we're going to quickly forget about it, especially if things,
Yeah.
just like you said, there's a big swing after this,
Well, it's also funny, yeah, and there will be, but it's also funny when Braves fans do this. Like the Braves just won the World Series. Like if this is coming from like Falcons fans, like I completely understand it. Like I'm right there with you. Like I'm ready never to watch a Falcons game again. But like the Braves, they're going to be just fine. Like, oh yeah, this guy named Ronald Acuna is going to walk out on opening day, or whenever he walks out. Like you're going to quickly forget about Freddie Freeman. Until he comes and plays you again. You'll forget about him, and then you'll see him on the field, and you'll decide whether you want to boo him or whether you want to cheer. I'll be cheering for him, but I will say I would love, as much as I would hate it, I would love a playoff matchup with Freddie Freeman coming back to Atlanta. I just think that would be must-watch television. I'd love to see how the fan reacts. I think that would be amazing, especially if it's with the Dodgers. I think you'd get a very mixed reaction. I think there'd a lot of people that'd be loyal to Freddie and wouldn't want to boo him. But I think you'd have a ton of people ready to just middle fingers up, like, let's go. But that wraps up.
Let me just say, I think a majority of people would be booing. I really
I
do.
think booing, but I think a lot of it would be booing in jest. I think you'd have a lot of people
Yeah,
genuinely upset, like
at the
actually.
situation,
And
not
then you got,
necessarily the player. It would just be it's the playoffs. It's tense. You see Freddie out there in Dodger blue right at first base where
yeah.
he should be in a Braves uniform. People are going to be like, "Oh my God, fuck you."
Yeah, I think that would be great. It would be awful, but great. It'd be. I mean, what we always say: we're rooting for chaos. So that would be some chaos. But that wraps it up for this episode. We'll be back tomorrow. I actually want to talk about some good Hawk stuff, and I think we still have some Falcons news. And who knows? Maybe the lockout will be over in a couple days, and we'll have that to talk about. If that happens, it's going to be free agency galore. So we will have a ton of stuff to talk.